This video is sponsored by Morning Brew. Hey, happy Friday. This week OPPO got into deep trouble twice. Netflix and Microsoft partnered up to bring you some ads, and Google started losing yet another fight to TikTok. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. Okay, my release highlights this week start with the Nothing Phone 1, which my studio mate Killian has here in the studio, together with all of its exciting glyph LED lights and ringtones. The retro launch was kind of weird. They tried to be super casual in a way, but in the end it just felt really off somehow. But the device itself looks pretty good. While it looks a little bit iPhone-y in real life, it also feels really nice somehow and overall just fine. It's a mostly reasonably priced mid-ranger that I think would do particularly well in the US, where there aren't a lot of other mid-rangers that are good in this kind of $400 to $500 range, but well. Next, the final beta of Android 13, so Beta 4, dropped on Pixel phones, and while Google's blog post didn't talk too much about new details beside a number of fixes and optimizations, this is a release candidate version, meaning that it's in the last testing phases before we get a stable launch later this summer. Also this week, Nokia Mobile announced the Nokia 5710 Express audio feature phone that lets you store and charge a pair of wireless earbuds inside the device, with the earbuds and the phone costing just £85. Kind of ridiculous, but maybe cool. There's also an entry-level tablet called the T10, but the specs are pretty terrible with like 3 gigs of RAM for €150, so maybe just ignore that one. And then an even worse release than that was BMW announcing that you'll need to pay a subscription fee to unlock heated seating in your own car soon. A subscription for a feature that's already in your car, mind you, is just turned off. There are 4 price tiers for the stupid heat seating, 4 for one feature, ranging from $18 per month to $415 for the quote unlimited unlock, because why not? And by the way, it's neither BMW's first, nor is it likely its last attempt at forcing a subscription down its consumers' throats. Boo! And to end the release monitor on a happy note, the James Webb Space Telescope released its first photos, and they truly look amazing. My favorite was probably the Carina Nebula or the Southern Ring Nebula, and you can zoom into the images and be just blown away by the fact that each of those dots is probably a galaxy, not just a star. Okay, and for my first story of the week, remember how it was first Xiaomi, then Vivo, and then Huawei that got into deep trouble in India, and as I predicted, this week it is the turn of OPPO to do the same. Except for them, this is only one of their 2 problems this week. OPPO's situation in India isn't as crazy as that of Xiaomi and Vivo, but it is still pretty bad. India's Directorate of Revenue Intelligence said this week that the phone maker OPPO's India unit evaded customs duties of 43.9 billion rupees, or about $500 million. OPPO India oversees both OPPO, OnePlus, and Realme in the country, so yeah, now pretty much every major Chinese phone brand in the country has been hit with some kind of a probe, but none of the Indian brands, not Samsung and not Apple. I think I see a pattern here. The Finance Ministry said that it had found evidence that OPPO India willfully wrongly declared the descriptions of certain items it imported into the nation, and said that it searched both the offices of OPPO India and members of its management team who, quote, accepted the submission of wrongful description before the customs authorities at the time of import. And then the government said that a notice had been issued to OPPO India demanding the customs duty. So they supposedly declared the wrong value for the stuff that they imported to save on customs duties, and saved about $500 million with that. What is sort of funny is that the ministry said that OPPO India has, quote, voluntarily deposited about $56.5 million as a partial differential customs duty. And yeah, sure, that sounds very voluntary. An OPPO India spokesperson told outlets that the company has a different view, and made sort of a wishy-washy statement saying that it kind of doesn't really accept the blame, but it also promises to do better in the future. I guess at least the directors of OPPO didn't flee the country this time like Vivo's did. Again, it's a bit hard to see from the outside how much of this is like a deserved punishment versus just political games. And it's clear that OPPO's management didn't get into that much trouble this time as their competitors did. But the fact that every one of the major Chinese companies got into trouble and none of the others did makes it look a little bit suspicious. And as a fun exercise, you can even see that the more a brand invested in manufacturing in India, the less they got into trouble, which might either support the political games theory, or it might just be one huge coincidence. And this is just in India, but OPPO and OnePlus also got into trouble in Germany, though this time because of Nokia. The Finnish networking giant Nokia, so not the phone maker HMD, but the big original Nokia, who owns a ton of 5G patents it likes to get paid for, has won a case against OPPO that might allow them to ban sales of OPPO and OnePlus devices in Germany, at least for a while. And long story short, OPPO previously agreed to license Nokia patents in 2018 to 2021, which then expired, and instead of finding an agreement, they decided to go to court. Nokia won, even if this is probably just the first round of a drawn-out legal battle, but as long as they won, technically speaking, OPPO and OnePlus phones shouldn't be allowed to be sold in Germany. Now, I checked and they are being sold as I'm recording this video, so I don't know if and how this will all take effect. And OPPO apparently has about 6% market share in Europe, with Germany probably coming in even higher, so I do expect them to want to resolve this quickly. Okay, and my second story of the week is Netflix launching ads on Netflix and choosing to partner with Microsoft to do it, meaning that Microsoft will build the tech and also do the actual ad sales for the streaming service, at least to start. Now, when I first heard the story, my initial reaction was WTF. I literally sent that to my writer Tristan, but then the more we thought about it, the more it kind of makes sense. Netflix said that they specifically chose Microsoft because they, quote, offered the flexibility to innovate over time on both the technology and the sales side, as well as strong privacy protections, while advertising experts said that it's likely that Microsoft gave Netflix some kind of guarantees as a part of the deal, so basically a floor price for the Netflix CPM. But beside that, I can think of 3 more reasons that kind of spoke for Microsoft. First, the advertiser partner alternatives might have been Google, Amazon, Meta, or Comcast, which all have ad platforms, but they also all have a somewhat competing content business model of their own, so they are competitors to Netflix. Microsoft basically doesn't, and it's therefore a neutral party, while they do still have a fairly large ad network and ad tech platform from Bing, MSN, and more. So here, Microsoft is a clear underdog, but it's still a pretty big dog with really deep pockets. If dogs had pockets, I guess. Second, Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings was on Microsoft's board from 2007 to 2012, and Netflix has previously also used a lot of Microsoft tech, such as Silverlight, which they used to deliver video in the early days, so they might already have an existing relationship. And third, Microsoft might also want to convince Netflix to move some of its servers away from Amazon's AWS over to Azure in the future too, so they might be willing to offer really big discounts long-term for a bundle deal. So that's my guess, and this deal could weirdly make Microsoft a fairly large advertising company almost overnight, which is gonna be interesting to watch. Okay, and my third story of the week is going to be a short one, and it is Google saying that they're losing to TikTok in a whole new and unexpected way. The competition with YouTube is fierce, of course, and the threat is clear, but this week, a senior Google executive said that Google Search and Maps are also threatened as well. The executive noted that for users aged 18 to 24, almost 40% of young people, when they are looking for a place for lunch, they don't go to Google Maps or Search, they go to TikTok and Instagram, and recommending places is a profitable business. And whereas you or I might find Google Maps intuitive, young people growing up apparently didn't have to rely on reading maps or something, so instead Google has to conjure up completely new expectations, like AR route finding, instead of making you find your own on a map. Now, another big story this week were the so-called Uber files, which are 124,000 leaked documents showing how Uber's former CEO bullied his way through laws and governments and got politicians like Emmanuel Macron to bend over backwards to help their expansion. And I first read about this story and many others in my sponsor, Morning Brew. Morning Brew is the free daily newsletter that I read every day of the week, as it covers tech, business, and whatever else is relevant, with great writing, stats, and graphics graphics and more in a fun and simple format that's similar in approach and depth to what I do here on my show. There is original writing, well-chosen topics, and it's always to the point, and it sometimes even makes me chuckle. And I do love a good chuckle. Like the name implies, I like to read it right after I wake up, as I find that getting a bit of thoughtful writing is a way better way to start the day than just jumping straight into doom scrolling on social media. Signing up takes just a few seconds, it's free, and there's no reason to not sign up. Click on the link in the description and you'll be all set.